You've always dreamed of traveling, but are you using the right travel method, not only for your lifestyle, but your long-term travel plans? Today, I'm going to go over 3 different budgeting methods to help you design the right budget for not only your lifestyle, but your long-term travel plans. So welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Valerie. I'm a full-time retired solo traveler. So welcome back to Travel for One, solo travel over 50. I dreamed of doing full-time travel for many years. I had certainly gone on many vacations over my work career, but when I got the opportunity to retire early and start traveling full-time solo, the budgeting was the next step in my planning process. And because I'm a full-time traveler and I travel internationally, you'll easily see the third method applies specifically for not only my travel lifestyle, but my long-term travel plans. The 3 different budgeting methods that I want to go over today are the budget with unlimited resources, the itinerary budget, and then those that go by a monthly budget. So let's start with the unlimited budget. This method of budgeting is really for those travelers that have an unlimited resource bucket. You might have a pension or passive income. The benefit to this type of budget is freedom. You have the freedom to travel when you want, where you want, without the financial restrictions that most retirees have. This method of budgeting not only gives you the freedom, it allows for greater comfort. Think luxury hotels, high-end Airbnbs, amazing dinners out, and the ability to book business class seats when you're taking those long distance flights, and far less stress because your mind isn't on the amount of money you're spending. It's really about the destination that you've chosen. This method of budgeting could also be for someone that doesn't necessarily see themselves traveling for 5 or 10 years, but maybe for the first 2 or 3 years when they first retire, and then might see themselves vacationing throughout their retirement. The cons to this: normally, for someone that has unlimited resources, isn't necessarily traveling to stretch their budget even further. They're doing more luxury travel, maybe 2 or 3 trips a year, but they're really splurging when they do those trips. This method of budgeting is also for those that don't necessarily see themselves traveling full time, but they might travel for 2 or 3 years when they first retire and then continue to do those vacations throughout the year. They typically have a home base that they go back to. The con to this method of budgeting: you could be spending far more money than you really need to, and it's really not designed for those that don't have a long-term retirement income resource. The next budgeting method would be an itinerary budget. This would be a budget to use because you know you want to go to specific destinations. So you're going to research the cost when it comes to accommodations, food, your transportation, and those excursions that you've been talking about for years. I need this amount of money to go to these different destinations. Let's take Asia for an example. You know you want to visit Vietnam, and you know that you want to go to Da Nang, Hoi An, Hanoi, and maybe even Ha Long Bay. You would take the cities within the destination you intend to travel and determine the cost for each of those cities, including accommodations, food, transportation, excursions. Once you have those figures, then you can add in the additional costs that you know you're going to have, such as cell phone service, travel insurance, personal needs. Once you have the information, now you can decide, can I afford to go to this destination based on the cost? So that would be an itinerary budgeting method. The pro to this type of budgeting method, it's really flexible. You're able to take the cost from each of the countries you intend to visit and determine, is that country within my budget? This method of budgeting is really designed for those travelers that like structure, that they want to know what the cost is up front. There's no surprises along the way. So many travelers I speak to tend to do those bucket list trips when they first start traveling in retirement. You're excited, you're not working anymore, and your dream of traveling is finally coming into reality. The con with this type of budgeting method is you really have no flexibility to change your mind. Majority of the time, you're going to have everything pre-booked. You know where you're going, where you're staying, the type of excursions you're going to take advantage of, and the transportation to each of those cities. The challenge with this, it's really hard to cancel those reservations unless you've paid extra for that ability. The third method of budgeting is more of a monthly budget itinerary. This is a traveler that tends to travel full time or slow travel for a longer period of time. This would be a budget set for each month, and you plan your destinations and travel based on that set amount each month. Think similar to a household budget. It's going to cover your accommodations, your travel, your food, excursions. Everything has to fall within that budget. This method of budgeting is really designed for those travelers that treat their travel like it's just everyday life. They're not running around every single day on excursions and going from one site to the other. You know the amount of money each and every month that you have to spend. You also know how much you're spending over the course of a year. Although you might have some months you don't even reach your budget, however, that gave you the ability to take those funds from that month and apply it to a more expensive destination, which is a lot of times what full-time travelers do. It also gives you the ability to go to a more expensive destination within that year's trip, or move it to the next year so that you can fit it within your yearly budget. The benefit to this method of budgeting is it's also consistent. You know how much is coming out of your retirement funds each and every month. The con to this budgeting method is you really have to be disciplined. You really have to pay attention to not only your food cost or accommodations, but you're really staying within your budget each month so that you're not overspending by the end of that year. Let's compare the three different budget methods. The first one we went over is unlimited resources. It isn't necessarily something that a full-time traveler would use unless you're blessed with unlimited resources. They're doing more luxury travel, maybe 2 or 3 trips a year, but they're really splurging when they do those trips. The second method is the itinerary budget. This method is really designed for those that want structure, goal-oriented trips that you have on your bucket list. And the final method was monthly budget. And this method of budgeting is really designed for those long-term, slow travelers. Travelers that might stay a month or 2 months in one location. An example of this type of budgeting would be, I'm setting a budget for $3,000 a month, and that $3,000 has to cover my Airbnb or hotel. It's going to cover my food, my excursions, transportation, insurance, cell phone coverage, and any odds and ends that might come up throughout the month. Let's say that you needed to go to the dentist. That is all part of your monthly budget. Picking the right budgeting method for retirement travel is really based on not only your lifestyle, but your long-term travel plans. What do you envision your long-term travel plans looking like? Is it we want to just travel for a year because we've retired and we're just ready to go? Is it more, I want to check off this bucket list I've always dreamed of? Or is it, I want my retirement funds to stretch as far as they can, so I'm going to travel to less expensive destinations to reach my goals? All three methods work. You just have to decide which one is going to work for you. So, which budget method is right for you? Comment below. I'd like to know how many people use or envision themselves using the different methods that we've discussed today. Up next, how do you find the information you need to build a realistic budget for each of the destinations that you plan on visiting? If you want an easy way to not only track your travel information that you're gathering, but have it in a system that easily works, you can watch this video next.